certainly. We'll start with, I've been talking about Bo Nix, and I said, listen, I got 7-8 games.
Well, you should be.
Yeah, 7-8 games in a row I've seen him, and I know Sean Payton's great, but they don't have great personnel. I like Cortland Sutton. They have backs I like. They have a great left tackle, but they don't have a lot of great personnel. Their defense, actually, I think, has got better overall personnel. Your thoughts on Bo Nix before we get to your play of the week?
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from Bo Nix. He's gotten incrementally better every week. I had a chance to spend time with Bo Nix in the draft process, Colin, and he's an incredibly intelligent kid. One thing that a lot of people wouldn't be aware is he called all the protections at Oregon. And that's not something that a lot of college quarterbacks do. So he came into the NFL pretty savvy and aware about defensive fronts, about pressure schemes. And when you combine him with how Sean Payton coaches offense and how he gets receivers open, particularly primary receivers, it's really a good fit. And there's an efficiency to Nix's game. I mean, look at last week. He was 28 for 33. So receivers don't have to be great to play in this offense. And the receiver who catches the ball on the big play that we can go to now was a late-round pick out of Utah, Devon Velley. You're probably familiar with him being out in the Pac-12 area. And, you know, he's become, in a sense, their number 2 receiver behind Sutton. But this play, to me, we spoke early on about window throwing. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is really, really hard. So he's in the gun in a 3-by-1 set. Now, what are you going to get from the defense is you're going to get kind of a split coverage here. They're going to play cover 4 to the boundary, okay? And they're going to play cover 2 to the field. You see this a lot in the NFL, these variations of quarters coverage where there's still 2 deep safeties. So now what are they going to run? The route concept here is going to be the tight end. Nate Atkins is going to run a short route. And Velley, who's about 6'3", 6'4", I remember doing his tape coming out of Utah, he's going to run the seam route here. So in some ways, it's kind of a high-low version here. Now, when you run a seam, because it is split safety, that's a good concept to run a seam route in the middle of the field. But you've got to deal with the linebackers, the underneath defenders, and we know that safety, because it's cover 2, is going to retreat, because that's what safeties do in cover 2. So now, as you run this, you're going to see that the linebackers, the second-level players, they do drop back here. So now that tells Nix that the throw has to be layered. He can't drive this ball. He has to layer the throw into that void in the middle. But the key thing here, and this is really good, is there's no one to control, no route that controls the backside safety, Jesse Bates. So he can slide inside. So this throw has to really beat Bates as well as get over the underneath defenders. This is a big-time window throw, and you have to be able to make these throws. You can see it really well here. Look how tight this is when you see it from this angle. So he's made a lot of these throws, Colin, and I got to tell you, his arm, while it's not a gun, we're not saying it's, you know, top 5 gun, it's been stronger in the NFL than I think a lot of us would have thought coming out, including myself.
Yep.
Exactly. Oh, man, there's so many exactly things, and I'll just work backwards. Exactly. God, I was fighting so many people throughout this offseason, going into this season about Bo Nix and his arm strength, and it was just like, I kept saying, what are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking about? And, you know, it's his arm is not a weakness. It's not a thing that they have to find a way through. Like, his arm has obviously been great, and that throw, that is one of those types of throws that I think you can really miss. It's one of those blink and you miss it type throws that you don't realize just how special a throw like that is. And we say you got to be able to make that throw in the NFL, but I think probably it's safe to say that majority of quarterbacks actually are unable to make that throw consistently. Yeah, they can make it, of course. Even a backup quarterback can make a throw like that, but it's how consistently can you make a throw like that? And that's the difference, quite frankly. But the other thing that I really wanted to highlight is Bo Nix's intelligence. And this has been my prevailing thesis on Bo Nix and why I think he's going to continue to get better and better and better, and why I thought how he was going to get better was going to be a lot more rapid, as well as the whole idea. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't bring this up when I broke down the one clip with Nick Ray and First Things First, because as we all know at this point, that there's this prevailing idea that when you have a lot of starts in college, and when you're, just old enough, whatever the cutoff age, whatever, whoever made it up is, this idea is that when you're an old enough quarterback, when you get into the NFL, you're going to be closer to your ceiling than, say, a quarterback who's like 22, 23, because they have a lot more room to grow. There's an exception to that rule. And again, I didn't make up this rule. This is just what people say, that if you're really hyper athletic, right? So if you're really, really mobile, fast, quick, maybe, really physically strong, whatever it may be, like you have a ton of athletic gifts that also can really be developed or utilized in a way, or maybe you utilize that throughout your college career. So a few other aspects of your game are going to be lacking because you were able to rely on your athleticism so much more. But when you are closer to the way how a Bo Nix looks like, then it's like, well, you're closer to the finished product. And that's what Nick Wright keeps saying. That's something that you hear Nick Wright say a lot, not in the way how I just described it, but specifically saying that Bo Nix is at his ceiling. What we're seeing right now is who he is. And one of my biggest counters to that is, let's just say that's true. Let's just say that that's true. And I'm sure there's probably some validity to that. There's probably some truth to that. Conceptually, I think it can make some sense, although I don't think it should be a hard and fast rule. I mean, that's where I kind of really draw that line. But I could see it being like something that you want to discuss or bring into the awareness when trying to evaluate some of these quarterbacks. But as we make an exception for athleticism, you need to make an athleticism for people who are insanely intelligent. And that is who Bo Nix is. And intelligence, for some weird, bizarre reason, continues to be such an underappreciated factor in how great someone can be, especially a quarterback. And I think part of it's been de-emphasized, at least publicly, is because, historically speaking, we know that there's definitely been various demographics of people who are seen as less intelligent, all that. And I'm very sympathetic to that, truly. I understand that. But it doesn't mean that we still can't highlight when people are really, really intelligent and what it can do for the game. It doesn't mean it has to be done in a way to disservice or bring down other people. But just like how we say Lamar Jackson is a much better runner and way more athletic than a Bo Nix, and Josh Allen is much more stronger physically than a Mahomes, we can say, we could say the same thing that, Bo Nix is smarter than Baker Mayfield or whoever it may be. And it doesn't have to be this like offensive or hurtful, or doesn't have to have any underlying themes beyond that, quite frankly. And it doesn't have to go any more deeper than that, quite honestly. LeBron James, he's a great example that I like to use. Part of what makes LeBron James so special is his hyper intelligence. He is an absolute NBA savant. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. The two of them were and is absolutely just some of the most brilliant basketball minds. They were super geniuses on the court. And that is a massive reason for some of their success. Obviously, it's some of the physicality. Sometimes it's just the straight athleticism, all that type of stuff. But the hyper intelligence and deeply, deeply, deeply understanding the game and knowing how to adapt, which both of those basketball players really had to do throughout their careers, which allowed them to have continued and evolved excellence, is as clear as day. It's as clear as day. And you can see how some quarterbacks, no matter what their gifts are, whether they're really athletic, strong, or more pocket, you can see that sometimes when intelligence can kind of get in the way or help them. And I think there's plenty of quarterbacks who can really excel or hurt themselves, depending on the various situations. CJ Stroud, I think, is an incredibly intelligent quarterback as well. Mahomes is. I think Josh Allen and can be questionable. It's a little tough. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, do you understand what needs to be done in any given moment? I'm not so sure about that. Like, are you more of the physical beast of the world? It's like, where are we at now with this? And so it's just interesting because sometimes your level of intelligence can also kind of be masked by a great offensive coach. That's why they talk about things like simplifying the offenses and stuff like that. So again, it doesn't have to fit any type of preconceived notion that people have about it. But we already know in general, people see athletes as dumber to begin with, right? The whole dumb jock stereotype of sorts. So when you have someone like a Bo Nix who has this incredibly high level of intelligence, you know he's going to be able to get this game on a significantly deeper level. And to think that when you have his physical skill set, which I think is already in a place where he's going to continue to evolve, his level of intelligence, and you're combining him with Sean Payton, like, of course he's going to grow, evolve, and be even better. You're not going to tell me that when you have those tools in the toolbox, and now you have Sean Payton as your head coach, that's not going, that you're pretty much already at your ceiling. You somehow maximized your ceiling with a college level coach and programs and teams and, you know, whatever, however we want to define it, that an NFL head coach like Sean Payton, given this skill set, won't be able to get you even better. And we see him continuing to grow and get better week to week to week to week. So it's like, it's never really made a whole lot of sense to me. But I do think it's a shame that we've kind of evolved a little bit in throughout the sports conversations about, like, it feels like talking about intelligence is kind of like a faux pas. You're not you're not allowed to really like talk about it these days. At most, you can just say he's a really smart player, but we can just, like, you know, leave it at that. Or say, oh, that was a dumb play, but we never really kind of dig deeper than that. And again, I understand some of the historical context. I truly do, but I think we can hopefully evolve past that, be more nuanced about it, and have some honest discussions about it. And just because someone's smarter than another person doesn't make them necessarily better than them or makes the other person inferior. There are plenty of people who are way smarter than me. You guys know I go toe to toe with Nick Wright. I'm pretty confident he's smarter than me. I'm pretty confident, like, if we were playing Jeopardy or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or recall football statistics and numbers and recall certain games, I'm very confident that he would be able to do that a million times better than me. I'm being very, honest about that. But in no way do I think Nick Wright's better than me. And again, I just mean in general. I don't even mean in terms of like sports takes or conversations. So it's just one of those things where intelligence doesn't automatically need to mean, you know, superior, inferior, right? It's just another skill set, another attribute, another trait that can be developed, that can be utilized to your benefit or your detriment, depending on where you rank. No different than your muscle strength, your bone density, your speed, your agility, your processing. Processing is different than intelligence. Like, there's all different levels of intelligence. How do we define it? All of that. So it definitely starts to get a lot more complicated, which I'm all for, quite frankly. But I think it's being under discussed significantly in terms of one of Bo Nix's superpowers, quite frankly. So always interesting to me kind of how these conversations unfold. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, and, you know, the throws that he's been making, the growth that he's had week to week to week, and just his level of intelligence and how it's been impacting his play and how it'll impact his career, quite frankly. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.